everyone, this is Charlotte and this is a podcast called Chatting and Painting. It's where I talk about topics whilst I paint or fiddle or sew or something like that whilst listening to terrible music apparently. I also swear a lot, so of course there's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do swear and I do talk about sensitive topics, so if you're not ready to hear about those sensitive topics or alternative viewpoints, then I suggest changing the channel and finding something else. Maybe you could watch Teletubbies or something. Infantile minds cannot grasp concepts like, assault, rape, things like that. They seem to be offended by them. So, it's a sign of maturity and wisdom to be able to entertain thoughts that aren't your own. Some people can't do it. It's just offensive. So if you're anything like that, you might want to change the channel because I'm going to be going to the depths of some weird shit. The topic for today is resilience. You need to have resilience as an adult. It is a sign of maturity to be able to bounce back from situations that you maybe thought you would do well in but still failed or got fucked up by. It's a sign of maturity. I mean, it's also a humbling experience because, no one is ever right all the time. And to be able to bounce back from it, you'll be able to try again later, won't you? It's when you start losing your, mind over not getting what you want or not having it your way that you start to lose a grip on reality, I think. There are different types of resilience. There's emotional resilience, psychological resilience, physical resilience, financial resilience. It's just the ability basically to bounce back and regenerate from adversity. If you've listened to any of my podcasts, you'll know what kind of shit I've been through. I don't know if I had resilience sort of built into me, conditioned into me like we do in the classroom. Rather, it was kind of just something that developed naturally. I got a giant cup, it's awesome. Trying to drink more water. Unfortunately, I can hear my ex-husband in the back of my head. Why aren't you drinking water? Why don't you keep your dick in your pants? But no, you need to be able to develop resilience. It's bouncing back from adversity. If you've lived in a poverty cycle like I have, you'll know what it is to lose everything. Sorry, I'm doubling up here. You'll know what it is to lose things. You'll know what it is to go without. You'll know what it is to watch other people have things that you'd like and that you want, but you can't afford. And to have to deal with the bare basics of the situation and to, just have to go with it and to try not to be bitter about it, not be angry about the situation, develop some kind of courage towards getting yourself out of that cycle. We're all dealt, certain cards. You can play those cards in the way you want, obviously. Some people choose to stay in places like, situations like poverty cycles. Some people choose to get out. There is a matter of choice. Some people say, you can't break a poverty cycle because it's just that. It's hard to break. No, but it is breakable, is the thing. You can get out. You just need to try. Usually education is the best way to get out of a poverty cycle because it increases your lifestyle chances. You get to get a better job. You get a chance at upward mobility and social at social levels. If you're sitting your entire life on the welfare system, you'll find that the chances of becoming rich, unless you're selling drugs on the side or something, are pretty which we had a lot of growing up. Kids and adults selling weed, for example. They would do a side hustle and just not tell Centrelink. Don't do that. You will get caught. It does fuck you up for life. But you'll find that if you're just sitting there and expecting change because you can't be bothered developing a sense of resilience when it comes to your life circumstances in poverty cycles, you're not going to get better life chances. You will be settling for whatever you're given. And to be honest, I've been on Centrelink on and off. Our welfare system is called Centrelink Australia. As a student, as a kid, I had to do it when we had COVID lockdowns because they closed the schools. It's not fun to do. It's not great. It's meant to keep you barely functioning, it's not really a support system, it's a stepping stone to get somewhere else. Much like the education system. You got a lot of people that just get bored whilst they're trying to learn new skills and things like that. They lose motivation. That's partly because they've got low resilience, but also because they've got low stamina when it comes to enacting change. The question is, how much drive do you have and how much do you want it? Oop, I know how loud that is. If you're that pissed off enough with the system or the situation you find yourself in, then you are more inclined to develop natural resilience and bounce back and push forward. Whilst we do condition the kids in school to develop resilience, it feels artificial, to be honest, because until they actually find the tacit experiences, the physical experiences in which you need to develop resilience, you're not going to really know what to do. And we will sort of structure our lessons based on scenarios where you would need resilience, say bullying or health conditions or something like that. But until they actually get there, they're not going to know. And that's the same with adulting. Until you actually face resistance or needing to, stage a comeback of some kind, you're not going to have the resilience to push forward. Now, someone who's gone through a shitload of atrocities in their lifetime is going to have a shitload of resilience because they've done that before. I mean, what's the phrase? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Anyone who is calm in the face of that kind of shit probably has been through a lot and is unfazed by it. The problem with that is you also tend to develop a shitload of trauma which desensitizes yourself. So there's a thin line between desensitizing yourself from dangerous and fucked up experiences and developing resilience. Maybe they go hand in hand, who knows? Think about financial resilience is the ability to bounce back and remake any money that you lost. Anyone who's going through cost of living crisis is finding their savings dwindling. Can I help you? Frankie's sitting at my hip. He's been out 5 times today and will not do what he needs to do. And I'm just like, you know what, you can wait for me now. But anyone who's been through the cost of living crisis and still is sitting in it will know what it is to try and bounce back from losing all your funds, possibly losing your house, possibly losing your job, and you're just developing that ability to resist collapse is a good way of talking about financial resilience. Maybe putting in safeguards that could help you along the way. If you know that there's a potential for losing your job, maybe you want to make an additional side hustle. Maybe you want to look at how your structure of your spending is affecting income loss at the time and try and, plug those holes in the boat. That's a form of developing financial resilience in the cost of living crisis. If you have come from a domestic violence household, as I have, essentially, where parenting is physical, you would know what it is to be able to develop a thick skin and a toughness when it comes to dealing with others. I deal with assholes a lot. I don't like them. I don't go out of my way to go hang out with them. If I find them, I tend to back away. But at the same time, I'm not going to let their insecurities, as a form of bullying, essentially, I'm not going to let their insecurities dictate how I feel about myself. It's like, I know what I've been through. I know that you guys aren't shit. And nothing you can say or do will faze me at this point, because I've probably had worse, which is how I fared so well with the last social group and my ex-boyfriend. It's like, I've been through worse, darling. You don't faze me. So you develop resilience in that way, and that was emotional resilience as well, because of things like cheating and stuff like that. I've had the grander scheme of things. I mean, once your ex-husband's asked you for an open marriage and you lose 16 years of your life in the process, some dickhead with a hair clip doesn't really cut it. It's like, oh no. 16 years versus fuck all time after that comparatively. You develop the tougher skin towards these things. My curiosity in that circumstance was more towards who. Because I had already, I'd already done the research. I'd figured out who was working, where they were working. I'm like, all it needs a fucking name at this point, which would be confirmation of who I already suspected. I'm like, I already know this guy's a dickhead at this point, if you're willing to do this kind of shit, so I just want to know who. It was curiosity. It wasn't a case of, oh my god, he betrayed me, he did all these horrible things. I'm like, bitch, I lost a husband of 16 years before you. You don't count. Tell me who. That's what I'm interested in. And that form of resilience, it does desensitize you from the experience as well, because there is I suppose there would be a richness to absolutely collapsing in the form of betrayal, in the face of betrayal. You would develop your emotional skills maybe a bit more, but I just tended to cut them off at that stage. I'm like, if this is the kind of person you are, I don't want to fucking know you. Which is probably the right thing to do, I think. There's no point hanging on to the who's, the where's, the why of this situation. It's like, am I not good enough bullshit. It's like, I'm good enough. I'm more than good enough. I'm more than good enough not to fucking cheat back, and I left. So we can tell who was the nutter in that job. Essentially, that's emotional, psychological resilience. I didn't collapse. I went one better. I went off. I got my shit together. I got my money together, and I bought a house, and I got on with my life. I'm going, this is the way you want to live. You're on your own, mate. And eventually, that person probably will be on their own, because you can't keep using and abusing your position and people like that and expect to keep them. Bless you, Baba. Okay, man. No, don't get up. Oh, God. This doggy follows me around. Yes, I know, but I'm busy. So it's like when I left my ex-husband, with a shirt on my back, I was homeless in debt and all that kind of crap. If you listen to the other podcast, you'll know that. That sort of dark night of the soul period where I was sort of full hermit mode, involuntarily hermit mode, because, everyone bailed, sort of, pretty much, except my brother, who actually had to go to crash on his couch, and I was homeless for a while because I was just couch surfing, whilst my ex-husband had the apartment and doing whatever the fuck he wanted in that apartment, which I was told repeatedly I should go back and get, because what an asshole he is. Why are you on the streets and he's not? It's like, oh, I don't want to be in that house. Well, I didn't. I think I would have done more damage in staying in that house to myself emotionally and psychologically and watching him bring people home than actually just up and leaving. And that's why I up and left. Because I'm not staying to watch you shit on me, essentially. So that's why I left that scenario. And I went couch surfing until Bob died. So from January, actually today's Australia Day, so I celebrate this as my Freedom Day. This is the day I actually left my ex-husband, 6 years ago. So it's got nothing to do with Australian colonialism for me. It's all to do with my own rights of leaving an abusive relationship. Toxic shit. It's been 6 years, and I went, January I left, crashed on my brother's couch till, when did Bob die? February. I think it was February. So, maybe February. No, it was later than that because my parents held on to the house. I'd say about April. And then my nanny died. That was a weird year because I had a lot of experiences which would need resilience. Like 2 people dying, separation and divorce, homelessness, debt, businesses collapsing, my uni collapsed. I was doing a doctorate degree and I didn't have the brain power to finish it because I was more concerned with getting myself out of debt and paying bills whilst also couch crashing. It was a crazy year. So for that year in particular, I had to use resilience. I think that I pulled every string of resilience I had in that year. I was sitting there going, how the fuck am I going to fix this? Psychologically, emotional. At the same time, I had to go to a psych because I was mentally not coping with the depression which had come, and I was having panic attacks and PTSD attacks and all this kind of thing. So it was an attack on every fucking level that year. And my ability to bounce back was definitely called into question. Anything like cheating and all that shit that came afterwards, fucking mediocre in comparison. So I think once you've been thrown into the fire and you've learnt to walk in it and use it, you'll be fine with someone trying to flick a lit match at you. But fuck off. So as long as you can develop those skills, you're fine. The thing is not to bend to it. Don't take that shit. If someone is, cheating on you, which is essentially trying to suggest that you're not good enough, turn back on them. That's all you can do, really. Things like that. It's like, I don't see people cheating on me as them being better than me. I see it as you are intensely insecure and you can't handle your own business, so you need to go and look elsewhere for as many people's external validation as possible. You are not happy in yourself. I'm fine. That I learned through my ex-husband's stupid ultimatum. We need an open marriage or I'm leaving. I'm like, bitch, leave. Clearly you're not good enough for the situation and position. It's like, I know what I'm doing in this place. I know how good I am with this job. This is a breeze for me. You're not coping. Maybe you should fucking leave. And I did suggest at the time, maybe you should get a van and go on a tour or something like that, because clearly he needed to get his shit straight. But this guy was a perpetual quitter anyway. I should have seen it coming. He's quit everything he's ever touched. It was just another thing in the line. It was the only thing he had left standing, to be honest, at the time, because even his boot camps at that time were failing. So, I don't know if it was a reaction to them failing. I know he had lost a load of clients and his money was going down, and I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? If you're trying to sacrifice me because you're insecure about your fucking abilities without thinking outside the box. So rather than actually, go and get a proper job or anything like that, he decided to go and find people to, sow his oats. I'm sitting there going, you are a dumb fuck. All it did was prove to you don't understand what the fuck is going on in this situation and how much I actually fucking support him. It's insane. And I didn't know it at the time until I actually stood on my own 2 feet and went through the motions alone. Essentially, earning back whatever debt I had accrued because I was trying to renovate houses and stuff like that to sell, to get my name off the lease. Is that lease? The mortgage. You won't know until you actually face the adversity what you're made of. And people who don't face adversity or face mediocre adversity will never actually understand the depth to which you need to develop your own personal sense of strength and resilience. They will they'll collapse under the strain of mediocrity. If you've ever been somewhere, I don't know, something like prison, that's an extreme example of needing resilience, because not only probably have you led a hard life, you've also had to face a hard life inside prison. It's not easy in there. It's not a fucking daycare center where you get nap time and, not only are you fighting your own inner demons, you're fighting everyone else's inner demons, which seem to want to come out. You're going to need a fuckload of resilience just to exist in that forum. And once you're out, I hope you use that resilience to help for good. Tough as nails. I don't like it when they come out and commit crimes again, because I feel like it's a waste of whatever you've learned and grown in terms of self-development. It's such a waste. It's like, this is where it goes. You don't need to do it again. You don't need to go back in. This is a chance to use the strength and the toughness you've grown and developed in prison to either help someone else, help yourself, not in a bad way. Don't go and rob another bank. But it does toughen you up. And it's a skill set, and you should use it for good. It feels like a waste when they go back to crime. Shh. So that's why I liked watching people do, there's a lot of programs on YouTube where people come out of prison and they're helping, like kids that are heading that way, or people who have come out of rehab. That takes a lot of resilience as well. and they're helping people who are drug addicted and stuff like that, and then, you know, coaching them through getting clean or sober or stuff like that. You could always take these horrible experiences and turn them into something good. I think that was a bird. By doing these podcasts, I've taken some fucked up examples of experience I've had, and I'm just sharing information, talking to myself, partly helping myself, but also, you know, there are other people who have faced these kinds of things and worse, and I want them to know that they're not alone. There are a lot of people who face some shit, and they might tend to hide it because either they're ashamed of it or they're embarrassed, or, you know, you don't want to be seen as the odd one out. There's no shame in these shit experiences. The only thing you can develop from them is lessons and, you know, inner strength. Don't be ashamed of the shit you've gone through. It's a learning experience. You go to school, it's a learning experience. You go to life, it's a learning experience. Life is a learning experience. You're put on this earth to develop your soul, enrich your mind, and develop your feelings. Keep your body healthy. Help other people. Look up to the fucking animals and the planet, and that's about it, guys. Anything else and you're overthinking it. When you start claiming allegiances to weird social groups that aren't in your best interest and aren't healthy for the mind, heart, or soul or anything, then we start questioning what the fuck you're here for. You know, resilience is a treasure. It's something to be grateful for. If you've gone through some fucked up experiences and your life has just collapsed because you didn't have the resilience and fortitude, that better not be work. It's school holidays. Why would it be work? Bitch, please. I long to do that. One day I'm going to turn around to someone and say, bitch, please. I'm hoping it's not someone I work with. I want to use that phrase. But you know, you should be grateful for the opportunity to develop resilience because it's another form of strength. Yes, it comes from traumatizing experiences, but you know, in Buddhist sense, life is suffering. What you do with that suffering will dictate how well your life goes. Hopefully. If you've seen suffering, learnt that suffering, maybe you can not do the suffering again, now that you know better, do better. If you know that drugs cause you pain, maybe if you've recognized that and learnt from it, developed resilience from it, you won't do drugs again, you know? It's a learning experience. None of us stop learning. We're all lifelong learners. It's just that the school system or the format changes. It never goes away. Oh my God, don't you dare. I've got a little police dog. I swear to God, he'll bark at everything. Everything. Even people walking their dogs, it's like, would you just sit down and chill, bro? What can we do with our resilience? Definitely teach others. Definitely voice the situations that cause this pain, because you know, part of common sense is developing ways in which to share your information to prevent others possibly from having to face the same horrible experiences. If you're a rape survivor, if you're a sexual assault survivor, if you're a assault survivor, maybe just been assaulted, all these things need to be talked about, because if they just go unannounced, not talked about, people won't know they exist. They won't know what quantity these events occur. They won't know who's affected. And in that way, we won't know there's a problem. So we do need to talk about it and find ways and solutions to get rid of it, because obviously it's causing pain. And while some pain is good in the form of developing resilience, ultimately resilience in that sense is a service to humanity, where we need to start fixing things where these events don't happen again. Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil in that instance. If you've been sexually assaulted, for example, you would want to talk about it widely. You'd want to discuss what happened, who did it, what kinds of people are involved, what the context was, to prevent other people having to face those certain examples again, to prevent other people having to experience the same pain. And it is in that way a service to humanity. And it does sound to some people like we are whinging. If we're talking about these things, trying to fix it, and nothing's getting fixed, then people are just they're not gonna shut up, they're gonna keep going. We need to fix it, that's the problem. And it's a form of strength and resilience to keep talking about it, even when no one's listening. Or when you feel no one's listening, because someone will be listening. Someone's always listening. Someone's always watching, even if they don't admit it. And so we keep talking about it. It is a problem. Problems need fixing. I admire people who've gone through hell. That's like when I went to the Invictus Games in Sydney. Was it 2018? Was that crazy year again? And I was watching all these soldiers, ex-soldiers, and they were showing immense levels of resilience. And all these people got like some kind of either physical disability because of their experiences, or a mental, I wouldn't say disability, different ability. It's not going to stop them, it never does. People adapt quite well, actually. And I'm quite proud of that, actually. They're quite good at it. But they face these horrible levels of adversity and experiences where it just addles either the brain or the mind, and they've had to develop a particular form of toughness with regards to dealing with those circumstances. These are out of the ordinary circumstances. No one can really prepare for some of the shit they've gone through and done. You might say, I've prepared and I've been trained, but ultimately, no. Which, leads to believe things like war is not the default human condition. If we are developing things like PTS from the concept of war and battle and things like that, maybe it's not meant for us. Maybe we're just doing it because we're told to do it. If the result is to be partially brain damaged in a sense, psychologically damaged, physically damaged, then it's probably not for us. Considering it goes against our survival mechanism. What's that? Music went off. It's kind of nature's way of saying this is not good. Here we have a bunch of people who've been through it. They have experiences. They need to talk about it. They need to let other people know what's going on and why this isn't working, and how they felt, and the people involved, and why they were there, and all kinds of things, and help others develop their form of resilience in the same way in order to serve other people. It is a form of serving humanity. I was impressed by the amount of people that had things like limbs off, and they adapted like prosthetics and things like that to compensate for a loss of a leg or an arm. I was particularly impressed by the murder rugby ball. I was sitting there going, how the hell are you guys throwing yourselves around like that? It's insane. And not hurting yourself more. But they, again, have developed a certain physical toughness as well as mental toughness in the face of this adversity. And so when I had my divorce and I went to this thing and I was feeling very mentally not right, I was dealing with having to go to a psych and stuff like that. I went to these events. I went to quite a few events. I've got a yellow folder full of all my ticket stubs of the things I saw. I loved it. I had so much fun. I loved watching these guys. But and the stories are amazing too. You go and look for the profiles of what they've done, all the players and things like that, and they've had some interesting profiles. I don't know if it's still online actually, but it was interesting to watch. But you see what they've gone through, and my things that I went through, though important in their own right, were completely a little bit mediocre and compared to, going into a war zone and getting your legs blown off. Slightly mediocre. Still fucked up, because it's still things like, rape and sexual assault and violence and poverty and all these things. Still valid in their own right, but not as bad as someone coming to kill you, for example, and having to defend yourself that way. So, hats off to those guys who are developing. That's very raw resilience too. And then coming back to civvy life and having to just adapt, it's a hard thing, especially when you've been taught for God knows how many years, just to kill whatever you see moving. It's like come back to civvy life and someone pisses you off at the bus stop, you're like, it's like, no, control your temper. There are solutions which are not Battlezone originated. Use your words, not your gun. But you know, it's that, and it's a different context as well. Civil life is completely different to army life, I'd say. And so, you know, you have to adapt a form of resilience to cope with that. You know, it's crazy. Context based as well. I don't know if anyone from the army, like a male from the army, would be able to cope with the experiences of a woman who's been raped, for example. I don't know if it's the same context, if it's relatable, but at the same time, I'm sure they would appreciate discussing it, because it's still an issue that needs to be talked about and discussed and treated, essentially. We'll go after this, okay? This is your 6th time to go to the toilet. You can wait. You can wait. Hold it. Cross your little puppy legs and... I'll take him for a big walk later. Yeah, I know. No. Can you see? He's like there. Go away, Frank. No, you have to wait. Go away. I will come back. No, don't lick me. What are we doing? Wait. You have to wait. You have to wait. Oh, it's really hot in here. But, you know, it's a topic that needs to be discussed, and so we get on with it. Can't invalidate someone else's experiences because you haven't lived the same ones. I would not shit on anyone who's got PDS from the army, because I've got PDS from existing in Civvy World. You know, it's a different context, but it's still fucking there. Ooh. Don't sniff paint, children. I don't know why I do that. I think it's stimming. So don't huff the paint. You can't invalidate someone else's experience because it's all useful. It's all needed. I wouldn't know anything about, you know, surviving and developing resilience in relation to drug addiction, because I've never done drugs, but I would still sit and listen, and I would consider it a service to humanity for anyone to talk about their experiences that they've had with drugs, alcoholism, anything like that, because, you know, it's a danger that could help the population if we just let people know that it's there and avoidable. And the triggers that cause it, you know, resilience is always meant to be a form of helping others as well. Helping yourself primarily, but also helping others. I don't understand virtue signaling, which is someone who's, you know, who's gone through mediocrity and claiming to jump on a bandwagon through sympathy. For example, there was that girl who claimed she had cancer. She did a GoFundMe page, it's Bella something, and there was all the current affairs news and everything like that. But she had a GoFundMe page, and she got so many people on board because there were cancer survivors who had developed resilience and were willing to talk about what happened to her and discuss and try and offer support and things like that. But it turns out it was fake, and she had done it to garner a following and sympathy. And to be honest, I think she honestly had some kind of mental illness going on, because why would you lie about such a serious matter? She was saying that she was in support of cancer research, all this business. Virtue signaling, supporting causes that the outer community would deem worthy, and in that way you gather popularity. Whether you actually support it or not is another matter, but you're getting, you know, it's essentially PR stunts. I don't understand it. I wouldn't support someone who does that. It's like a lot of celebrities. Motorbike. I missed it. There's so many bikes in my area. I love it. They go past my house. I'm like, yeah. But a lot of celebrities claim to have, we've got so much. What do they say? Some of the celebrities are so brave. You're so brave for some shit. And it's always something mediocre, like, you're so brave for wearing that dress. It's like, Wearing a dress, really? Yeah, you're so brave. You're so brave for talking about this mediocre experience that most people who aren't celebrities face daily, and you've had to face it maybe once or twice. And so I think, is this actual, real, genuine resilience, or is this a PR stunt where people can claim support for you because you might have had slightly similar experience, and this gives you more money on the whole? That's what I don't understand. The cheapness of the situation. When someone stands up and says, I identify with this, and then they don't actually identify with this, but they do like the attention. That bugs me. He's eating biscuits. Okay. I've got a minute to that bugger. He eats everything. Took him out 5 times for a walk today. He's eaten cat shit bones. He tried to eat a bit of plastic. I grabbed it out of his mouth. He got some lint. Someone had left some lint from like a dryer on the side of the road. I had to grab that out of his mouth. He just eats everything. So I'm gonna put it down. My doggy is nuts. That's why I call him Snuffy Pig. He's a little snuffy pig. He just snuffles around and eats anything he can find. It's insane. But it is a vet trip and I'm worried, so please put it down. I don't want to have to take you to the vet. Crazy. Cat shit, human vomit. You got weird taste, Frank. You see him? You bugger. I'm hoping it's just an age thing. You know how like babies always put stuff in their mouth? So it's how they learn. It's their first point of learning. Is oral. If you're going through the, oh god, is it Piaget's learning stage, developmental stages? It's oral. Smell. You go through the senses essentially. You go through the senses as you develop, and then eventually you get to abstract thinking. But you know, I'm hoping he grows out of it. Yeah. So how can we develop resilience? How can we develop toughness? The tricky bit is developing toughness without developing bitterness and anger. It is very easy to just get angry at your life circumstances and to ignore the fact that they are lessons. My granddad Bob was very, very bitter about everyone around him by the time he died. And he was bitter because he felt abandoned. Now, bearing in mind, my granddad Bob was a womanizer. And he was one of these guys that wants to flash the cash to get the girls. That doesn't last. The kind of girls he was attracting, even though he was married as well at the time, half the time. She divorced him. The kind of girls he was attracting were gold diggers, basically. They don't hang around him so long as he would buy them drinks. These are not girls, these are women older than me. Because he divorced my nanny when they were in their 50s, I think. And in the following years, he just kept going after other women. And he was very bitter. And when I used to sit with him, he would have these conversations, semi-arguments, you know, like about how they had wronged him and treated him like shit and stuff like that. And in the end, he died alone because, let's face it, he's a very bitter, angry old man. I know you need to go to the toilet, but we're not going. Not yet. You got a couple more minutes. What time is it? 38 minutes. You got 20 minutes, maybe. You can wait. Because every time we go out there, all you do is eat cat shit. No. And then you argue with me when I try and get it out of your mouth, and I'm not doing that. It's a bit rude. I'm trying to be a good doggy mum, but he keeps, every time I try and get stuff out of his mouth, he's like, "Arr." I'm like, what the hell? Fine, eat the cat shit. But he was very bitter, my granddad Bob. And he was also alone. He had self-isolated because he felt that the world had turned on him, essentially, even though the things he was doing to women, in particular, he never had any male friends, I noticed, always female friends. But the things he was doing to women were not nice things to do. He was using them, essentially. He would flash the cash, assume that they would be attracted to him, and then he'd use them for sex, funny enough, at his age, although I doubt my sex drive would die down even at that age. And then when he got bored, he'd leave or he'd find someone else. And it was a constant cycle of just going through people. And these are older ladies with older values as well. They're not used to being treated like shit. And so you would find the turnover of these girls, I say girls, ladies, to be quite quick. They're not going to put up with that shit. They grew up in an era where, you know, you didn't. And I was sad though, because some of his girlfriends I actually really liked. There was one called Coral who was lovely. She was alternative, she was into crystals and stuff like that, but he treated her like shit. And I think he cheated on her with another one called Margie. And Margie was horrible. We used to call her Poison Dwarf. Because she was just, compared to Coral, she was horrible. Just rough as guts and abrupt. And he ended up with a rough as guts ex-nurse Scotswoman, actually, who was the last woman standing, essentially, and she only stayed because she thought she was getting some of his money. He got the dregs of the dregs in that case, because she was nothing to look at. She had no real personality. But the fact that she stayed long enough to hopefully cash in on his demise, essentially, even though she didn't, because she actually died before he did. After she died, he had no one, because he used people. What he should have done is stop cheating on his ex-wife, even if she didn't want him back, because it's karma in a handbag, isn't it? You keep doing the wrong thing, eventually that shit comes back to haunt you. Did I do the inside? No. There's just no need for it. But he grew very bitter and very angry, and he kept claiming in his defense everyone was abandoning him, even though he was doing these things that were not nice to people. Although he was picking people that were, you know, partial to using him for his money anyway. You can't pick and choose, really, if you're going to keep aiming to impress women by spending money on them. It doesn't work that way. You're going to get gold diggers. If you actually bothered to put the time in and develop... Oh, gold. Yeah, right. If you bother to put the time in and develop your personality and try and actually build proper relationships, you might have a better chance of some longevity and someone who would actually stay with you up until old age. You've got to look after people. But he chose the quick fix and chasing women right up until he died, or rather was abandoned. You can wait. You can wait. And then he wondered right at the end why no one liked him, because he's nasty. So how do we avoid being nasty when it comes to developing resilience in our day-to-day? First of all, you need to take... Stop. First of all, you need to develop... I've lost my train of thought now. You need to take into context the situation people find themselves in. If someone is bitter, there's a chance that they have gone through some traumatic experiences possibly and just made the wrong decisions when it comes to dealing with other people. We all play a part in our own reality, so if you've stood there and taken it with a trapped mindset that you should take it, then that's also feeding into your own demise, basically. We need to take accountability for our position in these events. If I had stayed with my ex-husband whilst he brought other people home and then blamed him still and not taken account for the fact that I had chosen to stay and then become bitter about it, that would not show a good level of resilience, because I would have collapsed into essentially just defensive paranoia and, you know, blaming someone else for my own decisions. I would have chosen to stay. It would have been a harder decision to make had I had kids or anything like that, but at the same time, luckily in those circumstances, all I had to do was, you know, sign some divorce papers and I was free as a bird. I'm not going to take that level of disrespect. My self-esteem was not that low that I was willing to take that level of disrespect. My resilience in that I think was the first sign of developing a strong resilience to that kind of disrespect. Because before that, I had just gone with whatever he said. I had not really questioned it. There were times when I'd found some things that were suspicious with regards to fidelity, but I'd sort of brushed them off. I brought them up, I remember. I found some black hair and bags of clothes in the back of his car that were female, and I brought them up, and he tried to explain them away, and I'd let it go. But at the same time, this was abrupt and in my face, and I said, I'm not taking this shit. This is absolute bullshit. I'm not taking it. And so my self-esteem was bolstered, particularly when it came to questioning my moral mindset, my internal alignment, and I said, fuck this, and I left. It was hard because I had nothing to leave with. I was already looking at debt at that time period. It would have been great to have an emergency fund to leave with, but now we know. And in that way I'll develop financial resilience, because if I ever get into another relationship, I'll probably have some kind of financial escape chute as well to work with. And I thoroughly recommend it for everyone, because you never know where it's going to go, and you need to protect yourself at times as well. But it developed resilience, and I didn't become bitter, and I didn't become too angry. I was angry in that first year, I will admit that, but I didn't become like Bob, where I know he betrayed me, but I didn't go with it. I didn't say, this is my fault, I asked for this. I said, this is this kind of person. He has made his own adult choices in presenting this to me in this particular way. This is not in line with my morals. I'm not having it. And I left, essentially. That was my resilience forming. Had I spiraled into some kind of life of sleeping around, drinking and things like that, like Bob had done, then my life would have turned out very differently. I wouldn't have a house, I don't think. I think I would have spent all my money drinking or trying to have a good time to forget. And it would have just backfired everything. Yes, I know you need the toilet. Is it actually a poo this time? Sorry, this is a horrible conversation for you. Toilet. Yes, I know. What time is it? I'm going to have to pause. Whew, sorry about that. Alright, well, there's a prime example of needing resilience at this point. Prime example. I don't know if you all listened to the other podcast, but my dad's just gone in for bowel cancer surgery last week. He's got a stoma right now. I've been running back and forth trying to get my sister up and running, my mum's house up and running, my house up and running, for my sister coming over from the UK so she could check on Dad if anything happens. This has got to the point where my brother's been given power of attorney because there's a high chance that something could happen while he's being operated on. On top of that, I've also had Frank with canine kennel cough, in which, he's been coughing his guts up, and there was blood in his stool yesterday, hence the reason I'm so fascinated with his poo today. If anything could go wrong, throw it on. There's a high sign of resilience, is to keep calm and carry on in the face of that kind of shit. Part of adulting, to be able to just bounce back and keep the ball rolling. So he's okay now. Good news, no blood for him. Don't know about my dad yet. He's still getting operated on. He's due for his next operation Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So today, tomorrow, or the next day. At the moment, he's got a stoma, so we don't even know what's going on with that. So we deal with one crisis at a time. And yeah, you just get used to working on your toes, essentially. So the good news is Frankie's better. We don't know where Dad is or what's going on with Dad. My brother's handling that side of things mainly. My younger sister is looking after my mum while she's here mainly. And she and my older sister have just done out her farm garden, while I did her house the other day. So we're all pitching in and doing our part, which is also helpful for developing resilience. Oh my God. But at least Frankie's getting better. When it rains, it pours. The secret to getting doggies better? Roast chicken. I was going to wait till his birthday, but considering he was sick and he wasn't eating, I gave him, he's gone off ham. He wasn't eating his doggy food. He wasn't eating his biscuits. He wasn't eating his treats. He was sniffing the peanut butter, which had the tablets in it that he needs to take, and he wasn't doing that. He wasn't taking the fluid. So he had like a whole day of just not eating there, and I'm sitting there freaking out. Going, he's not eating. What do I do? So we just went through all the foods that a dog might like, and it turns out roast chicken is the thing. If they're not taking, and it's a bit bougie, isn't it? If he's not taking his tablets, wrap it in chicken skin. They definitely eat that. As a vegetarian, I don't normally have chicken in the house, but for this, it's a worthy cause, and I've got enough shit to worry about without my dog getting sicker, so I don't mind paying for that. And luckily today, even though he's not, 100% toilet-wise, it's a damn sight better than it was yesterday. So we're going to keep going with the tablets and the liquids and trying to keep him rested and not overexerted, exerted. To be honest, I'm just knackered. Yeah. So I'm going to give, in a weird way, I'm going to give him a wash in a minute because he's got a pooey bum. This is so like a baby, isn't it? It's like, it's not eating, what do we do? It's got a temperature, what do we do? Dog mum. So I'm going to give him a wash in a minute. And I'll clean him up again because I have to do it the day before and the day before that. It's just a runny bum. So, we do these things. We build resilience. And we're learning in the process. I'm learning in the process. Because the next time this happens, I'll know what to do then. And that's how you build resilience as well. And that can be applied to anything in life, basically. Whatever circumstances you're facing, whether it's adversity, or you don't know what you're doing, trial and error. Because usually he goes nuts for things like peanut butter and fried eggs. I gave him a fried egg a day, but he turned his nose up at it. Didn't turn his nose up at chicken. Right, we use the chicken next time. So, because the tablets need to get in. Somehow, and I don't like doing brute force, so I'd rather just get him to handle it himself. Wrap it in chicken skin. That's the way forward. Bit of a tangent there. But, we learn these things, and it's valuable as an adult because you never know when you're going to need to apply it to the next thing. Maybe one day I'll go into dealing with, patience and caring for patients, and then need some kind of similar experience. I don't know. So life in the universe is going to throw learning experiences at you, whether you like it or not. It's how you adapt and develop your own resilience to these particular contexts and experiences. And not everyone's going to get the same experiences. It's how you adapt that makes it an enriched living experience on the whole. It's also how we strangely develop common sense. And common sense is meant to be passed on communally for the betterment of those around you. Again, as a service to humanity. Even though it felt like a bit of a waffle, this one. What are we up to? 53 minutes. I might have to turn this off soon because I do want to give him a wash. And he got covered in prickles again. See, that's the thing. It's like he's sick, obviously, but he's still running around crazy. And I got a bit worried when he wasn't running around crazy. It's like when they're lethargic, we worry. And he wasn't eating, and I'm like, am I going to have to take him to the vet again? But it's not funny. I can only imagine how 10 times worse it would be if it was a child. So hopefully I'll never have to face that problem. It's just a nightmare, I should assume. And in terms of dealing with what my dad's going through, obviously he's got a worse scenario to deal with, but at the same time it's like I won't know how to address that issue until we know more about it. So if you are feeling like you might lack resilience when it comes to certain experiences you might face, like dealing with someone who's got cancer or having cancer yourself, maybe it's best to have an open mind when it comes to researching what they might be going through, talking through what they might be going through. And it might, it might alleviate some of the tension or the anxiety associated with those examples. I haven't talked to my dad yet because my dad's just not one of those people who likes to talk about it. We get there and he changes the topic altogether. It's like he's living in a sense of denial about what could potentially be going on. So it's very, and it's a complicated relationship as well. So it's weird. I would have liked to have had a solid relationship, but it's a weird relationship. Yeah. Anyway, so that's where I'm sort of hamstringed about that. So if he did, and there is a risk, like a great risk that he would, for example, die on a table because he was a heavy smoker and he doesn't look after himself, and he's 69 now, which is not an age in any way where people should be dying, to be honest. It's ridiculous. It's usually something like a heart attack or something that gets them at that age. I'm just gonna have to develop some kind of resilience based on how I interact with my siblings, I think. My mum, I don't know how she's going to cope if he does die. I don't know how she'll cope. She's never been alone herself, quite frankly. She's friends with him since they were something like 14 or something like that, and then they got married. So she's never been alone herself, whether it's a toxic as fuck relationship or not. It's familiar to her, so she stayed in that relationship. So she's going to be I don't know how she's going to cope. So we're going to have to work on her resilience, and hopefully through some kind of networking capabilities between my siblings and I. And we'll sort of all pitch in where we can and try and keep her going, I guess. So again, if you're facing a challenge in life, maybe you could look for networks which would offer support. Not everyone's got them. When I was going through divorce, I didn't have them. But that's not to say we turn to the same people who are facing adversity now. For example, like my mum, who wasn't there for me when I was separated and homeless and all that shit, and say, fuck you, you're on your own. You still need to show a level of humanity there. It's still someone in need. But again, uphold your boundaries, I guess, and protect yourself at the same time, even if you are helping them. Otherwise, there's potential you can just get steamrolled, which is horrible, really, because if you see someone in distress, you want to help them. If you see someone suffering, you want to help them. But at the same time, if there's a risk of throwing yourself under the bus just to help them, you've got to be mindful of where that could potentially happen and remove yourself from circumstances. That's horrible. Horrible! Because it's against, senses, empathy. It's against all that. But at the same time, these are realistic situations. Where do you draw the line? Don't know. I'll have to approach that when I get there. And that's how you learn. You learn by doing. I know it's a bit of a morbid topic to end on, but I'm going to have to leave it there. I'm going to finish this painting, I think, and then I'm going to give Frank a baby bath, essentially, to clean his butt. Because his bowel has no resilience at this point, and we're going to have to wait till that heals a bit more. I'm hoping you have a fantastic... That's a really gross topic. Why did I bring that up? I don't know. It's everything. I'm discussing everything. I hope you have a fantastic Monday. I'm going to do another 2 podcasts hopefully tomorrow before my sister comes back from the farm and with all the news about what's going on with Mum. Take it easy, and if you're facing trials and tribulations, remember this too shall pass. Everything is impermanent. Nothing is permanent. The good things, unfortunately, are not permanent, but the bad things are also not permanent. If you like the good things, maybe you can develop some kind of way to perpetuate them. But at the same time, not all things are meant to stay. You can't touch the same waters twice. Take it easy, look after yourselves. If you're facing horrible experiences, or if you're, it seems like there's a clusterfuck of weird shit going on around you, and a lot of people are facing that recently. including me, just it feels weird. There's some weird stuff going on, possibly in the ether. I don't know. Just what does the British say? Keep calm and carry on. We'll get through it. We will. And that's the real form of Stoicism: is to not deny your feelings, but to use them to guide your actions towards better outcomes. Learning experiences. Don't turn bitter. Don't become angry. Or if you're going to become angry, utilize it in appropriate, constructive ways. And just keep calm and carry on. As easy as that sounds, it just rolls off the tongue. Sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds, but look for help and look for structures which will encourage you to grow from these experiences, because this is part of life and this is adulting. And take it easy, and I will hopefully see you tomorrow.